All right. Yes, we can hear you fine.
Oh, okay. Are you using the XSplit instead of the internal?
Yes. We're actually not XSplit. We're going OBS.
OBS. Okay.
OBS found it much very easy to configure.
No worries.
So, all right. Well, Steve, howdy. I would like to introduce Sam Grover.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Hi, Steve.
Again.
Yeah,
I know my mic was working earlier. I was saying hi, but no responding. So.
Oh, got it. Well, I thought you were just the strong silent type.
No, I'm the weak loud one. Actually.
All right. Well, all right. First, I'll introduce Sam. Sam Grover is a staff attorney with the Freedom from Religion Foundation. For those of you that don't know, that's a nationwide nonprofit organization with over 25,000 members that promotes church and state separation and educates the public on non-theism. Sam advocates for atheists, agnostics, and other freethinkers across the country while specializing in legislation, religion in the military, religion in public health, and religion in prisons. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Sam?
Just that I'm happy to be on the program, and it's a delight to get to speak to some fellow freethinkers.
Great. Well, we're happy to have you here. So, all right, Matt Bevin down in Kentucky. Interesting. For anyone that's unaware of the situation, he has publicly announced from his correct me if I'm wrong, from his seat as governor, in an official capacity, that 2017 is in fact the year of the Bible. Now, we saw that our view is that that's a kind of a clear violation of the Establishment Clause. Maybe you can tell us if we're correct or not, and what your views on that are, Sam.
Sure, I would love to give a little bit of insight, but first maybe a little more background about this Year of the Bible proclamation.
Okay.
It's kind of funny. This is the second year in a row that Governor Bevin has announced a Year of the Bible in Kentucky. So this is a year lasting 24 months now of Bible-based promotion by this governor. The idea here is very clear. There's a private religious group asking the governor to promote their personal religious beliefs from his seat of government power. And the whole purpose is to promote that one religious ideology. This is something that the Establishment Clause says you cannot do as a government actor. And so, yes, it's FFRF's position that this proclamation absolutely violates the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment.
Okay, well, very good. That was pretty much our opinion as well. And I'd gotten argued because when I had first heard about it, I'm on Twitter and basically a lot of social media, and I'd gotten some responses from some theists that the response was, this doesn't establish. They were focusing on the word establish in Establishment Clause, completely ignoring the undue favoring interpretation, which I guess is part of it. The pick and choose.
Yeah, I get that sort of objection a lot from sort of armchair philosophers or people who didn't go to law school. I don't get it much from other attorneys because they understand that the literal words written into the Constitution are not the start and end of what is constitutionally required, right? We have jurisprudence, we have case law that elaborates on what each provision within the Constitution means. And so the Establishment Clause, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, means a lot more than just those specific words. It means the separation of church and state, as Thomas Jefferson put it. So there can be no government endorsement of one particular religion over another religion, or of religion generally over non-religion. And this Year of the Bible proclamation does both. It promotes religion generally over non-religion, and specifically Christianity over all other faiths.
Now, this was more than just a motto, right? This was a motto. This was actually something he actually signed, a proclamation from his actual office, correct?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, you can read the proclamation online. Yeah. There's a signed piece of paper.
I actually have it here. Yes.
Right.
Which makes it a little more disturbing. Had it been an offhand comment like "God bless us, thank you, and good night," then maybe not such an issue.
Yeah, because this has to be entered in a record, and also the Secretary of State also signed it as well.
Yeah, so this is a clear abuse of power by the governor, and it's obvious that the whole purpose of having this proclamation is to lend legitimacy to this one religious group, right? This fellowship, the Kentucky United Bible Reading Marathon group, could have just set up their Bible reading marathon, which is related to this proclamation. They could have just set that up and had people read through the whole Bible at the start of the year within their private homes or within church locations, or even, as they decided to do in many counties, at the seat of government. If there's a forum for reading or for public speech at the steps of City Hall, then sure, they could even go there and they could read the Bible there. But they've taken it a step further, and they've said, no, we're not just going to do that and exercise our First Amendment right to free speech. We're going to get the government involved in promoting our particular religious viewpoint to everyone. And that's where they've crossed the line.
Yeah, there's no question. When I'm reading through here, there's some quotes in here by some chief justices. It's promoting, particularly promoting the Bible by saying, quote, "The Bible is the best of all books and is the word of God and teaches us the way to be happy in this world and in the next." Now, that was from John Jay, first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Now, I don't know if that was a remark that he had made outside of the Supreme Court. I don't know if that's something that he was actually promoting from being a Chief Justice. But is it basically it's a bunch of quotes in here that's just endorsing the Bible, which I don't even see how legally anybody could actually look at this and go, yeah, this is something that any governor can do. I mean, what isn't there law places inside of Kentucky that are basically going, hey, Matthew, Bevin, you can't be doing this. Did anybody try to stop him in any way, shape, or form?
Not that I'm aware of. I believe that FFRF has written letters to Governor Bevin in the past. Things get tricky between there. So there's a space between what's legally permissible and what can be legally challenged in courts, and the two are not always 100% overlapped. So I imagine that Governor Bevin is fairly confident that this proclamation is not going to be challenged from a legal standpoint, simply because it's a difficult thing to do. FFRF has tried to challenge legally different religious proclamations in the past. We have a lawsuit that originally started against President Bush and then continued on with President Obama against the National Day of Prayer. For instance, which is an annual proclamation, legislated proclamation that the president must make declaring a day of prayer. And we originally won our lawsuit in the district court in Wisconsin. But on appeal, the Seventh Circuit said, you may well you may well have be correct that it is unconstitutional to make this declaration, but you don't have the legal standing to bring the lawsuit. And the Supreme Court was basically fine with this, or not the Supreme Court, the Seventh Circuit, echoing Supreme Court sentiment, has basically concluded that there is a space between what is illegal and what can be challenged.
Does this open the door for other proclamations from other governors that might be of a different religious persuasion?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, so our position is that any proclamation promoting religion is illegal and unconstitutional. So in that sense, this does not open the door because it itself is illegal. But yeah, to the extent that Governor Bevin is okay with promoting his personal religious beliefs from his seat of power, he should also be okay with declaring Kentucky the year of the Quran, or the year of Dawkins' The God Delusion.
Somehow I think none of that would fly.
Yeah, I mean, we would love to have the year, on origin of species or something, but we know that's not going to happen.
No, it's certainly not, and I imagine that would be grounds for impeachment in Kentucky.
Odds are, we certainly don't want any logic and reason promoted from a seat of government authority.
Well, yeah, right. So when it comes to things like the theory of evolution, getting evolution actually promoted in public schools and taught as it should be, Kentucky is one of the worst states, and proclamations like this don't do anything to further the idea that rationality is important, right?
I would agree. I was thinking perhaps the hope is that it's such a trivial thing. It's just a proclamation. It's not really changing anyone's lives. That perhaps it wouldn't be, no one would bother countering it or something of that sort. But there have been more significant transgressions in that part of the country, as I recall.
Well, there certainly have been, and even something that seems innocuous or minor, like this proclamation. It really does. It emboldens further violations, and at every little, minor encroachment that religion has into government business it opens the door a little bit more.
Yeah, this doesn't have to be a big thing. I mean, it is minor, but as you said, any chip away from this wall of separation of church and state is noted. We will against we don't want to eventually get to the point where they allow for everything. I am a very strong advocate of separation of church and state. I don't know how Kentucky gets away with their educational system being as poor as it is, where they are mandated to actually teach evolutionary theory, but the teachers can pretty much, on their own, unilaterally decide not to teach it, and that's disturbing. And how do you think it's going to be affected when we have somebody like Mike Pence as the Vice President of the United States, who doesn't even accept that evolution occurs? I don't think he even accepts what we colloquially refer to as microevolution. How is that going to affect things, you think?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's one that my organization, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, is anticipating coming up more and more under this new administration. We're gearing up for a lot of the religious rhetoric that Pence has thrown around to become reality, and we're prepared to challenge every new idea for promoting religion that comes our way.
I'm glad to hear that. See, from being just a part of the mess is not an attorney. From what you mentioned earlier about things that are prohibited and yet you really can't do anything about. The only view that I can apply is just applying logic. There's a document that says this shall not be, and it's a very important document. Therefore, just looked at from I'm not a professional as you. I'm not a legal professional. Just from observing it from the outside, it seems like we have the highest law in the land saying, forgive the expression, thou shalt not. And yet they shalt. So that's it's sometimes difficult to understand how these things can occur for a non-legal professional.
Right. Well, one of the reasons why so many politicians feel emboldened to promote their personal religious beliefs while acting in their official capacities is because of this this fallacy that has been perpetuated for so long, that the United States is somehow a Christian nation, right? Founded in the Judeo-Christian tradition, or with the Ten Commandments as the seat of law, as the template for the law of the land. When in reality, of course, we have an entirely secular constitution. Our original constitution has no religious promotion, does not mention God. The only references to religion are to prohibit it from being a test for public office.
Which, by the way, when did they change that? I heard it hasn't been that long ago that atheists weren't even allowed to run in some states. And just recently, we were talking to Aaron Raw, if you're familiar with him. He's actually running for state senate in Texas, in an area that has been predominantly non-secular. He's the underdog, but I mean, I wish him the best. I mean, for that area to do what he's doing takes a lot of cojones. But how is that changing as far as the people that are not religious? Like I'm agnostic. I'm not atheist, but I'm agnostic, so I'd fall under a non-theist. But what's changing for that, where an atheist can now run for office is better than they used to be able to do?
Well, the thing that's changing most quickly is the demographics, which we're very excited to see that overall today, 23% of Americans identify as non-religious now. And that's an 8-point increase since 2007 and a 15-point increase since 1990. So the nuns are the fastest growing religious, in quotes, ideology in America. About 35% of millennials, those born after 1981, are non-religious, and over 43% are non-Christian. So we are becoming more pluralistic very fast, and for that reason, non-Christian voices and non-religious voices are finding more of a space.
Do you think that's a backlash because of proclamations and things of this nature?
I think people are leaving the church in droves, and I think that's not necessarily a reaction to religious promotion so much as some of the other ideologies that the church has embraced, things like anti-gay, anti-LGBT sentiments, and things of that nature.
Yeah, I think that all that's having a backlash. I mean, most people I know, when the ones of the religious, they don't promote any of the homophobic or racist things that I've signed in the very, very fundamental evangelistic church. So I don't want to lump them all together. But in our community, the ones that have actually fallen away completely from religion have actually been the ones more raised in a young earth creationist environment, or a very, very fundamentalist. And when they got older, they realized a lot of the teachings that they were told was just categorically, impossibly wrong. And instead of being able to incorporate that into their own belief system, they just kind of abandoned religion as a whole. And one of that's happening nationwide now.
Yeah, I think that's a contributing factor for sure. And I think the rise of internet access has been a contributing factor to that movement, right? There's a huge aspect of most major sects of Christianity that is anti-science to a certain extent. And that comes from relying principally, basing your religion on a book that was written nearly 2,000 years ago. And where they just, they claim that bats are birds and that the earth is the center of the universe, right? So there are these disconnects in a book that's supposed to be infallible. And as a result, you have to do some mental gymnastics, or just decide that the things that science has come to understand are just, you have to reject them. Well,
there are people that will admit that They believe it because it makes them feel good. And
Right. So there's also I can sort of get if it's so there's the communal aspects of religion have some real positive characteristics. I guess that's what I want to say about it. Community building is important, and that can definitely happen without religion. I have seen lots of great atheist communities around the country. I communicate with them regularly. But for a lot of people, especially in smaller areas, religion is the community, right? The church is where people go to gather and have that sense of community. And so for that reason, leaving that church behind can be daunting.
I would imagine so. And my general view is religion is okay. I wouldn't go out of my way to destroy me personally. Would not go out of my way to make someone give up their beliefs, and that's not my thing. I just become upset when it influences public policy in a way that seems to favor the religious groups who apparently have no idea exactly what life is like in a theocracy. Apparently history is completely alien to these people, and that's what disturbs me when it creeps into public policy, education. It does get very disturbing, and this is
right.
And this is not the first event we've seen from Kentucky, of course.
No, certainly not. They've spent a lot of government money, taxpayer money recently, promoting Canham's Ark Park.
Yes, the Ark Carnival ride, as I like to call it.
Right. Though I don't think it's quite as entertaining as most carnival rides, unfortunately. But yeah, right. So as soon as you have religion affecting the way other people live, then I do think that you have a duty to question it and to challenge it, at least to the extent that it's affecting other people's lives. I definitely understand the live and let live sentiment. I would just add to that that I think regardless of what anyone believes, it's important that they think critically about their own beliefs and about the beliefs of others, right? No idea is sacred or should be immune from challenge.
Certainly not. I would agree with that. And actually, I've in speaking on the especially with this most recent issue, I've gotten responses that bravo to the governor, so that Christians, which can exercise their First Amendment right, like the First Amendment. This is adherence to the First Amendment. Is the responses that I sometimes get. I do find that a little disturbing as well.
Yeah, that's just pure nonsense. There's such a large gap between exercising your personal First Amendment right to free speech or free exercise of religion and having the government, using the machinery of the government to promote that belief for you. The government does not have First Amendment rights. The government itself does not have a right to free speech. It's individuals who have that right, and unfortunately, to a certain extent, corporations. But when you go beyond speaking your own mind and have the government promote your beliefs for you, that's when you violated the Constitution. And certainly FFRF would not have gotten involved with the situation had this private religious group just gone to the courthouse and read the Bible out loud themselves on the steps or in a public forum. But that's not what they chose to do. They want the government endorsement. They want that air of legitimacy.
Indeed. Now, on well, not the same topic, but the same state anyway. I don't know if you're prepared to speak on this or not. If you were involved or have any opinions, we mentioned Ken Ham's Ark Park, and its rather interesting employment practices, and how in spite of those, it still received the tax breaks, the tips, and all that sort of thing when really they should not have to. Are you? And like I said, if you have not done work on that, by all, just tell me. That's fine. But if you do have views, I'm curious to hear what they are.
Yeah. So I think all right. So first, for those who may not know, the Answers in Genesis group is trying to act as a nonprofit organization and receive taxpayer money. But they also want to run the Ark Park in a way where all of their employees must adhere to a very specific and rigid set of Christian doctrines. So you need to believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old and no more, and all sorts of other nonsense in order to be employed, in order to receive a paycheck that is partially funded by the government. So that's the issue, and they have been allowed to do this, and I think this is just one example of what is going to become a much larger problem over the next 4 years, which is religious groups trying to get government funding while also arguing that they have the right to exercise their religious beliefs to discriminate against others. It's a problem that we've seen crop up in a lot of other contexts. With religious bakers not wanting to bake cakes for gay weddings, with her name slipping me, the Kentucky clerk who
who refused to issue the marriage certificate. Is that the one?
Yeah. Whose name has escaped me for the moment, but had her 5 minutes of fame for basically refusing to do her duty. Right? She refused to do her job as a government actor because of her personal religious beliefs, and that goes well beyond the right to practice your religion. That it's well into the territory of exercising your religious beliefs in a way that that affects others' lives, that prohibits them from having equal access to government resources. So we've seen it happen, and I think this new Congress that's coming in is already geared up to promote a lot of legislation meant to further that sort of privilege for religion.
Which is a matter of some concern.
Yes. Yeah, it certainly is. So the Freedom from Religion Foundation obviously takes a good hard look at federal and state legislation that's meant to promote, in quotes, religious freedom, right? Which is usually not about equality, but about preserving privilege that those in the religious majority have enjoyed for decades. We will challenge legislative efforts whenever necessary to ensure that actual equality is preserved, which means a government that's free from religious promotion, a government that treats you equally regardless of your religious or non-religious belief.
Now, see, I was going to ask you this is your segment. Tell us about the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and this is your plug, because there's definitely a link to the donate page, so the work can continue. Is going to go into the description of this video. when it's live. I mean, well, it's live now, but I mean when it's archived for
Great.
view. So hey, give it your best plug so we can get you guys the support you need.
Great. Well, membership with our organization is relatively inexpensive and gets you a lot of benefits. So for a minimum of $40 a year as an individual adult or $25 as a student, you can be an FFRF member, which will get you 10 issues of Free Thought Today, which is our near monthly publication. It has articles on free thought. It has initiatives. It has our black collar crime blotter, which highlights some of the hypocritical crimes being committed by those in the priesthood. And in addition to that, you get a lot of else. You will get action alerts if you want them, which will tell you about state legislation in your area and what you can do to either voice your objection to it, or in some rare cases, voice your support for it if it's pro-free thought legislation. And you will also be supporting our organization and the work that we do. So FFRF, in addition to legislative efforts, we write over 1,000 letters every year to communities throughout the United States where some government entity is in some way promoting religion or forcing religious beliefs onto individuals. We do a lot of work with public schools throughout the country, doing things like writing to superintendents to make sure that elementary school teachers aren't forcing their classes to pray, or that students have the right to remain seated during the Pledge of Allegiance if they so choose. We write over 1,000 of these letters a year, and we couldn't do that without member support. So that's my plug. Join the Freedom from Religion Foundation and help us continue to ensure that free thought enjoys equal access to government resources.
Well, very good. I have to say that was an excellent plug. I am strongly motivated. You may count us in.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it.
All right. Is there? We covered the original topic fairly. Is there anything you'd like to add before we say good evening? Anything you want to throw in, or?
I just that 2017 is a new year and marks the start of a new federal administration. And regardless of your political beliefs, there are some challenges ahead, certainly, for those who believe in the separation of church and state. We have seen the encroachment happening already, and the task ahead of us is monumental, but it's also definitely one that we are prepared to rise and meet. So it's just important as that individuals continue to care and continue to be engaged. That's what I hope, and that is my New Year's resolution, to continue to be engaged.
All right. Well, all I would say is continue fighting the good fight. It is appreciated.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me on the program.
I was about to say thank you for joining us. Greatly appreciated. All right. Well, I think we've covered the issue at hand. We'll wrap it up. Thanks again, and do have a good evening.
Thank you.